Brian,
Yes.
do you like female characters in games?
Yes, I do. I play lots of games with female characters in them.
Would you mind if there were more female characters in games?
No.
All right, then I think we're done here.
Or least in the morning.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not that easy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Breaking Badger News. I'm your host, as always, the ever excited Simpsons kin. It is Star Wars week, ladies and gentlemen. Star Wars comes out on Friday, and based on all the reviews that are coming out, it's freaking awesome. But you're not here to hear us talk about that, and we're certainly not here to talk about any video games related to Star Wars, although we'd love to talk about how EA is getting well, I won't use that type of language here, but they're getting screwed over. But we're not talking about that today. We're actually talking about something that Google has been doing. So Google Play has started a new initiative called Change the Game. Get it? Okay. The goal of the initiative is as follows, quote, "Let's make mobile gaming truly for everyone by celebrating and empowering women as players and creators." Google Play product marketing manager Mathilde Cohen mentioned that men are more likely than women to consider themselves hardcore gamers. In an interview with GamesIndustry.biz, she said the following, "The last part of our hypothesis is there's underrepresentation within the industry. It's not a surprise today that 27.8% of the games industry is either female or transgender. A minority of the industry is female, and we do believe that has an impact on the content and the storylines created."
I just want to butt in a couple things here that comes to mind. Okay, first of all, she says, let's make, or the initiative says, let's make mobile gaming truly for everyone by celebrating and empowering women as players and creators. Now, there is a YouTube video that goes with this whole mission. That's kind of like how the message is delivered, right? They do this YouTube video. And I noticed throughout the YouTube video, you have all these badass females, like, you know, that's how they sort of frame it. You know, it's this kind of pandery through, you know, praise message geared at women. And throughout, I don't know if you noticed, if you watch the video, you might see it yourself. You'll see in the lower right-hand corner, tiny little advertisements that tell you what games are available on Google Play. I don't know if you noticed that. Even though you can't actually see that they're playing them because you don't really get a good look at the phones, you know, but you just know that there are women playing video games. And then it says, you know, SimCity, I think it's, The Sims something is available, and like, what was it, Candy Crush Saga, and a couple of other things. You'll see like little pop-up ads in the lower right-hand corner. And it's true that, I think anyway, women tend to play a lot of mobile games. So I don't have an issue with that at all. Like, it's, you know, if that's what you want to play. But it's weird that they say, let's make it for everyone, and then they show women, but women already play a lot of mobile games. So I'm trying to figure out who this is for. And then on top of that, she says, this is Mathilde says, "It's not a surprise today that 27.8% of the games industry is either female or transgender." It's weird that 27.8 is the number they come up with. It seems really specific. And it's also really strange that they say either female or transgender.
Well, you got to boost the numbers somehow.
Yeah, it's so strange that you put that in there because it just seems really odd. Like we're talking, the transgender population is extremely small, so it's a weird way to try to boost your number, unless boosting the number is sort of secondary to acknowledging the existence of transgender people, which I think is how they're doing it. But by lumping them in with women, I don't know what that's supposed to accomplish. So I'm just sort of like, I'm not making a criticism of what's being said, but I am trying to draw attention to the you know, the kinds of words and the kinds of statements that are being used here, so that people can sort of parse through it, because, you know, it's just sort of important to know, you know, what Google Play appears to be trying to accomplish, or trying to figure out what it is they're trying to accomplish by looking at what they're actually saying.
Well, so, I think what you could simply say is that they're more focused on trying to put forward social justice than they are about the consistency of their narrative. Case in point, you say that the ads for, what was it, Candy Crush Saga, and you mentioned SimCity. those are very popular games, yet I don't recall any female characters or protagonists in either of those games, yet women play them majority. Yeah, what's going on there?
There are no... I mean, Candy Crush, at least originally, didn't have characters. I mean, at least I don't think so. But even if there were, it wasn't the reason that women played. Yeah. You know, and that it wasn't like they were like, well, I would play this game, but I see a man in it. So even though it has like all the kinds of things I like about games, I just can't play it. I just can't. No, I don't think that happened.
Exactly. Now, this isn't to say that women don't dominate certain aspects of the gaming market, because they certainly do. And I want to bring up some of those numbers currently. I'm going to refer to a survey done by, I believe it's an actual website or an organization called Delta DNA. And they surveyed several different men and women, people who consider themselves gamers, and the types of games that they like to play. Now, in terms of women represented more than half of the people who played games in the following genres. Match 3, I don't know exactly what that is.
Puzzle games. So basically match 3 of the same color, of the same fruit, of the same object, whatever. And
then, okay. Yeah. 78% of the people that played those types of games were women. Hidden object, I guess they're not talking about hide the zucchini.
Not that they wouldn't be fans of that, because I am.
Well, I know. It's just be sort of hard to play with your phone.
No.
89% of people who play those types of games are women. And social slots, I'm guessing that's like Habbo Hotel or something.
All of this stuff is so sexual. But no, hidden object is like they're like mystery, murder type games where you have to like maybe you're looking for clues in a room, things like that. Then social slots is essentially like slot machines, but they have a social element. And yeah, we know that. To go back to chime in on that, of course, women represent more than half of the people who played games in those genres. And it's interesting that they sort of moved away, because the old narrative around the time of Gamergate, like a year or two ago, I remember reading an article that said, women make up the majority of gamers, sorry dudes, or something along those lines, right? No, seriously. And then they said women make up 60% of all gamers. But of course, there's a bit of a sleight of hand going on there. One, how do you define what a gamer is? And I think that's always been a term that I've always found it's been really misleading, because people use it in different ways for different reasons. And then on top of that, most women who play video games, I think like something like over 70-something% of women who play video games do not identify as gamers. Like if you ask them, are you a gamer? The majority would say no. It may be because to them that's sort of like a commitment, sort of like in the same way that the majority of women don't identify as feminists, but they do in fact agree with a lot of feminist talking points. So if you press them and say, don't you think, and I mean like feminist talking points from the perspective of a feminist trying to convert a non-feminist. So if a feminist said, don't you believe in equality? Most women would say yes. Don't you believe that women have it worse? Most women would say yes. Don't you believe that women should get equal pay for equal work? Most women would say yes, right? These are all things that the majority of women and men would generally agree with. But if you said, are you a feminist? They would say no. And the reason is because they think that calling yourself one either doesn't hold a lot of social currency, or, and maybe there's an and, I think a lot of people who feel like they have to take on that label means that they have to like perform activism, like they have to do something instead of just believe it. So they might say, well, no, because I don't do any activism. I didn't go to the Pussy March. I didn't go, I don't do hashtag resist, whatever, right? The
Pussy March?
The Pussy Hat March or the Women's March. I don't know.
Oh, the big difference there. Go on.
Yeah. I will march for pussy. The gooch step. But I
mean, you are the Doge after all.
That's right.
Go ahead.
That's right. But I think that's sort of the same. So if you ask a woman who plays video games, are you a gamer? They might think that gamer is something that is like another level. It's like a different kind of enthusiast level. And they might say, well, I'm not that enthusiastic about video games, but I like them. So they might say, no, but I like games, right? So I think that when you look at the numbers, you will have a majority of women who play games, but most of the time they are of those genre types. They are most of the time mobile, or social, like on Facebook or something. They have games there too, right? Or they play Words with Friends or whatever. And those are the things that appeal to them, you know. So they won't necessarily embrace the label, and they also don't necessarily spend the same kind of money that male gamers tend to spend, or more hardcore gamers, of which there are women as well. I'm not saying that there are no hardcore women gamers, obviously, but we're looking at, I'm talking in aggregate, majority, most of them are men. Most of the ones who spend money on games are men. However, and this goes back to my video, the video I watched, the women tend to, they control the spending, more of the spending when it comes to buying things, okay? So Google Play appears to be trying to tap into a market that they know is there. They know women play them, but a lot of the games they play tend to be free, right? Like you can download Candy Crush for nothing, you can play it. But you can spend money to get things within the game system that allow you to play more frequently or access more of the content or whatever, you know, like essentially do better. So how do you get these women who are not spending money on your game to spend money on your game? Well, I think that their approach is to pander, to tell them that because they are women, they are special and they get to play these games, and it's important somehow that they play these games and that they make a statement because vagina. And I think that's what they're going for, because the thing is, with male gamers, you cannot appeal to them by saying, because you're a dude, this is important. Like, that won't work. The way you get male gamers more interested in spending money through advertising outside of essentially promoting the product itself, if you want to appeal to their sensibilities emotionally, then you have to speak to their skill or their commitment to being a gamer. I'm reminded of Max. Do you know who Kevin Butler was? Do you know?
His name sounds very familiar.
All right, so because I don't know if you played the PlayStation 3 a lot, right? But around during the PlayStation 3's time.
Kevin Butler, yeah.
Yeah, there was.
I know.
He was like Kevin Butler, he was like a made-up employee of Sony, right?
Yeah, he was hilarious. Yeah.
Yes, he was hilarious, and people loved that advertising. I think that was a great advertising campaign for the PS3. And
I think that guy single-handedly saved the PS3.
He absolutely did. Their advertising was great. They even had him come. They brought the actor who plays Kevin Butler and had him on, one of the game shows. I don't know if it was the E3. I think it was E3 back in the day. But the core of that marketing campaign was that if you are a gamer because you like games, like it was like, this is about video games, and this is about the passion that goes into making them, and the passion in like playing them and getting better at them, mastering them, being able to tell people about it, trophies, achievements, etc., right? So outside of the game's quality itself, the way you appeal to the broader gaming audience, whether it's male or female, is to appeal to them as gamers, as their identity as gamers, and within that, the merits of being one, like how much commitment you have, how much you know about the industry, how much you recognize the faces, how much you devote to it, right? That's whether or not you're an enthusiast, or if you're a casual, if you're just somebody who just plays, a handful of games. Maybe you buy every Call of Duty as a casual, but you don't really know who's involved with making them. You don't really follow, who the hot reviewers are. You don't go watch the E3 shows. You don't care about that stuff. You just want to play it. And then there are people who really devote that time. And Kevin Butler was sort of like an example of the center of that. When that was the appeal. That's the only way that you can, or it seems to be the best way. Let me put it that way. The best and most effective way to appeal to a male audience is to appeal to the merit of being a gamer and playing video games,
and being the best.
Yeah, and being the best, exactly. Enjoying the competition. When it comes to, and that's outside of the game being good, because that's probably most important. When it comes to female gamers, the theory seems to be with them is that if you appeal to them by virtue of them being female and being in an industry that's male dominated, because that's important to point out, they are somehow that's like deserving of praise. That needs to be like the center, and that's how you appeal to their sensibilities, and more importantly, their willingness to spend money. And I think that's really what these guys want. I mean, there's virtue signaling going on for sure, but I think, that virtue signaling is a very easy way to get for corporations to make money, because they do it with Dove, like the Dove products and a lot of the beauty products. A lot of stuff that's aimed at women already uses virtue signaling to sell to women, especially around gender. It doesn't work that way with men, or at least not very well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so basically what we're trying to say is that when it comes to the way that men and women purchase certain products, particularly in terms of games, there's an entire science behind it. Yes, science, because unfortunately, whether you want to believe it or not, science is definitely an aspect of what cultivates our individual personalities as men and women, not just how we are socialized. And in terms of just having more women as a part of games, I think Brian and I can agree that, hey, as long as they're well written and they fit into the game as it is, we're totally fine with them. But to suggest that we need to push them in there on account of some sort of diversity push, and that the people in this video are the types of people that are going to be pushing that forward, I don't think that's going to be very good for business. Oh, and let me just remind you, in case you guys think that there aren't a lot of female protagonists or characters in games that are strong and worthy of being looked up to in terms of how well they are written, Chell from Portal, Faith from Mirror's Edge, Jill from Resident Evil, Heather Mason from Silent Hill 3, Ellie The Last of Us, Chloe Uncharted, Aerith Final Fantasy VII, Joanna Dark, Perfect Dark, Alex Vance, Half-Life 2, and The Boss, Metal Gear Solid 3.
The Boss is a really well-written character. Also, I like Terra from Final Fantasy 3 or Final Fantasy 6 if you're a purist.
Yep.
There's plenty. I mean,
notice how I didn't mention Samus Aran or Lara Croft. Suck it.
Yeah, well, like, people are gonna say that. Samus is usually the first character that comes to mind for many people. There was a couple of other things in this article that I wanted to touch on.
Sure.
So it says here that more than 60% of women also thought that less than a third of mobile games are made for women. I don't know how you look at a game and say that I don't think that that's made for me. However, there is nothing on the market that I'm aware of that doesn't allow you to play a game based on your gender. Like, there's no, like, if you go to buy, like, a man could play Candy Crush and there's not going to be a thing that stops him and says, sorry, but this is played by a majority of women, so it's not for you. Nobody's blocking entry here, and that's the thing that I'm noticing, is that there's a discussion that implies that women are having a harder time either getting involved with playing video games, or even getting involved with the industry of making video games. And that's actually ultimately the other thing that this this is trying to push, right? This change of the game thing. It's like, we need to get more women making games. I mean, there's no barrier to entry here. There's nobody standing in the way, except maybe Apple and Google themselves, because when it comes to mobile games, those are the two places that you can put your game. So they'd be the only people that could stand in your way. Now, if this is being put up by Google Play, then one could only assume that Google is not making this an obstacle. So you're already 50% free right there. And if Apple is not stupid, they will also allow women to make games. So there's nothing stopping you. So it's just a matter of, do you have the will to do it? And I think that, like, I bet if we looked at, and I should have done this, so I apologize. I bet if you look at a lot of the games that women tend to enjoy in the mobile market, there are probably a lot of men that made them. And that will probably tell you that maybe you don't really need to be a woman to make a game for women. And maybe you don't need to be a man to make a game for men, because there are games that are being directed and created by women that men tend to enjoy. I believe Bayonetta is one of them, as an example. Right?
Perfect example.
Yeah. So
Bayonetta 3 coming out. Woohoo!
What's it going to be on?
Switch.
Okay. Oh, well, that makes me sad. I'm not buying a Nintendo Switch for that. But that was another thing too. Is the gamer identity. I was talking about this a little bit with my wife, because she was annoyed with the video and the fact that it exists, because I was like, well, this is like, if there was something like that made for me, as, I don't know, either directing at the Latino male audience or something. And it was basically specifying that, you know, because you're a Latino, you have to like this or this is for you. I'd get really annoyed with that. I would really be annoyed with that. And it actually would probably have the opposite effect, because I don't want people telling me that I should like something based on my race or some other sort of what I think is an unimportant part of my identity that has nothing to do with who I am, because these are things that I was born with that I have no control over. And this ad clearly does that. It basically talks about, you know, whether you're a woman of color, whether you're gay, whether you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a Zerlfriend or whatever, you know, you play video games too, you know, whether you're a woman with a penis, not a trap, because the traps don't get any love, or a man with a vagina, you also should be playing video games, and no one should tell you you can't. No one does. Like, nobody cares.
It's they're right, but they're right, and they're trying to push their rightness the wrong way.
Well, yeah, it's like,
if that makes any sense.
It's like trying to solve a problem. It's like creating a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. Right. Like there's a perceived issue. Well, there aren't enough trans people making video games. Well, I mean, there aren't enough trans people. Like, you couldn't possibly create enough trans people to make it equal. There just aren't enough of them. So what do? You manufacture them? Like, that's not the way this works. Like, that's not the way you do it. And again, what does it mean to be a gamer? Like, I think that this is why I don't like that word for some reasons, because I know that ultimately I would say it's an enthusiast, but all gamers don't like the same things. You know, like, for example, you're a gamer, I'm a gamer, Razor Fist is a gamer, okay? You love Metal Gear Solid and that whole series, and what Kojima makes piques your interest. To put it lightly. Yeah, I like Kojima's stuff too, right? Razor Fist hates him, but he's not a gamer.
Like, what?
Yeah, he's not a fan, but that's okay.
Oh, no, that's not okay. We're gonna have to have a talk. I'm gonna have to sit him down.
Razor Fist is out of the club. He's no longer a gamer. We've kicked him out. No, but the purity tests, that's what I'm saying. The purity tests are unnecessary. You know? It's like, do you like doing this thing? Okay. Why is it's so important that people take on this identity? Well, I think the markets want it. I think it's a corporate push. I think they're trying to make money. I don't have a problem with that, because I'm a big fan of the free market and people should be able to do it. But, you know, let's recognize it for what it is. If you see a giant corporation like Google make a video to appeal to you and then hide tiny little advertisements in it, just recognize what's going on. They don't really care about you. They just want you to spend money on them. And they're trying to find out what buttons to push that get those results. Ultimately, I don't care that women play video games. I don't care what color they are. I think that the people, male or female, that are really into video games, that are enthusiasts, their identity is not important. Ultimately, what matters is, you know, when is Monster Hunter World coming out? That's what matters to them, you know, or January. Maybe that matters to me. But, you know, like, that's an example. When is the new PS4 version of Shadow of the Colossus coming out?
February.
Thanks for telling me.
I'm really anticipating both of those games.
When is Dragon's Crown Pro coming out? In the spring. That's the spring.
Okay.
But, you know, just a couple of examples I just plucked out of nowhere randomly.
Right. Yeah, the bottom line is, hey, it doesn't matter what your identity is. What matters is whether or not you want to go kill zombies and or Nazis and or, I don't know,
hunt dinosaurs, aliens. Do an infinite combo, you know, fucking just high noon everyone at the same time. Like, whatever it is you want to do.
Exactly. So. That's what's most important. Yep. And the more the merrier. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for us. This might be the longest episode of Breaking Badger we've ever done, but it's a good discussion to have. And I love talking about video games, especially because there's not a lot of games out at the moment that I'm particularly fond of. I just having these types of discussions rekindles my love of the medium. And if you love video games as much as us and you like this particular topic that we talked about today, make sure to leave your thoughts down below. Whether you agree or disagree with anything that Brian or I said, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Make sure to give us a like. It really helps us with, the YouTube algorithm and making sure that our videos are seen. If you want to see more content like this, please hit that subscribe button. We have tons of videos coming out every single week here at HoneyBadgerRadio, including more episodes of Breaking Badger News. I want to thank Brian for coming on and telling me about Razor Fist and how much of a heretic he is. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Enjoy whatever you want, Razor Fist. Like, honestly, whether you like or dislike something I like, it doesn't matter. Whatever floats your boat. But we're going to have a talk. And Brian, thanks so much for coming on at short notice. And until next time, have a lovely, lovely day.
Cuphead's Game of the Year 2017.